Today we're going to be putting together one of Gigabytes' fastest production boards with Intel's fastest production CPU for home desktop. This is the Ultra Gaming, the Aorus Ultra Gaming motherboard on the 2066 LGA chipset, or 2066. It is a very impressive board with RGB everything. On the RAM, PCI Express slots, just on everything. It's a very impressive board. So we'll be using that today. We'll be using this monster, the Core i9. This Core i9 is a 10 core, 20 thread CPU. As you can see there, hopefully it's not too shiny. So this should be a bit of fun. We'll take this one out now. Okay. So yeah, a little bit bigger, probably about a third bigger than the usual size CPUs that we see. I'm not sure if that's gauzing out or shiny too much, but you can see it says, Core i9 7900X, 3.3 gigahertz, and I think it turbos to 4.3, I think. Still haven't checked. Anyway, so we will go ahead and do what we normally do. We do a nice build. The heatsink that we have, as they don't come with a heatsink anymore, we're using the Aorus ATC700, which is this absolute behemoth. Huge looking heatsink. So this will go on. These massive copper pipes should do the job with a push-pull fan. We'll put them on shortly. We're using an Antec P8 case, something different. What have we got for a hard drive? We have a NVMe SSD 960 Pro M2. This motherboard has 3 M2 slots. 1, 2, 3. We should be using this one first. I believe that's what you should be using first, and then you use for the i9. These motherboards obviously have different setups for different chipsets as to how many cores your chip has. For the i9 it doesn't matter, you can use everything, but you use every second slot for what we're doing anyway. So we'll throw that in as well. We've got some nice RAM as well. I think it's 64 gig, I'll have to double check that. But anyway, away we go, we'll start. So, just going to work out this lever arch system because it's changed. So that's pretty cool. Impressive. Now I think we actually leave that cover on. I think we do. Still processor before removal of cover. There you go. Normally you don't do that at all. Normally the cover comes straight off, which is probably why they had to print it on there. Oh, that's quite weighty. So there we go, you can see underneath. And on top. Okay, so now to work the direction out. Okay, I believe it's going to go this way. See if it fits. And no, it doesn't, so it must go the other way. Like that. Perfect. Alright. Okay, looks good. Now I guess we just lever it down, I don't know. This is new. I guess we'll just leave this down. I still want to take this cover off, I'm getting a bit worried. think I want to take this cover off, just in case it does something that it shouldn't. So we'll lock in that top section. Oh, that's got a lot of tension on it, a lot of tension. Put this one down and done. Okay, so it's in. It sort of sits on a 90-degree angle from the rest of the board, or even upside down even. But it sits quite flat. There's only about 1 or 2 mils raised above the actual shim there, so that should be fine. Okay, the next will be the heatsink, this big behemoth of a thing. So, first things first, we're going to need all the bits and pieces. Now, as this is for every type of socket, we only need, of course, the 2066 or 2066 socket. I would imagine there will be those. We'll need the heatsink compound and the little ratchet for later. I should probably read the instructions. I'll do that quickly. So after looking at this, it actually looks like we don't really need the back plane at all. It normally goes on like our previous build. If you saw our last build, the motherboard was sandwiched, and then the screw would go through, hold the heatsink on, screw it down, and away it went. This motherboard cleverly actually has the screw holes each 4 corner there, so that's a bonus. So it looks like we just use probably, I'd say, these ones. Screw onto the base. I'd say similar to this. And there is a tiny little ratchet in here, so I assume that's just to tighten it right up to make sure it works. Yeah, you can't get much tighter than what they already are. Not without probably causing too much damage, so I'm not going to make them too tight. Okay. So from here, I would imagine there's going to be a plate that goes down on top of this. And squeeze this down, I assume, and then from that will sit the heatsink, which will screw in. We have some spring. Okay, so the next step will be to put the ATC onto the holding frame for it. So it will sit roughly like that. Yep, we'll line them up and put it on. Okay, second screw on the side going in. Done. So it should look roughly like this. I haven't removed the cover yet because I don't want anything to get on it. But you can see it's screwed on and it is sitting slightly above. so that there'll be pressure on the top of that to pull down. So from here, before you put the heatsink on, it's always best that you work out where it's going. And in this case, because of the shape of this, it's going to be sitting back this way, because you'll be pulling the air in and pushing the air out, and so you want it coming out the back of the case in this case. So that's not always right. Sometimes you want it venting through the top, or if you have a strange build, you might want it venting out in some other direction. But generally, back of the case, as you've got fans pulling cool air in. So the next step will be to put the paste on the CPU. Now, the manual, interestingly enough, says that you put a lot of heatsink compound on. I'm not really sold on that, but we will do what it says. So hopefully it's not too bad of stuff. Okay. I'm just going to, basically you usually put a P size in the middle, but the size of this CPU lid is actually quite large. So what I'm going to do is just put a line so that when it's pressed down, the line just spreads out. You can do the same with a P size. When you do that, it just spreads out as a circle. If you do a circle or something like that, you're just going to trap air into the center, which is exactly what you don't want. So just one long line or a large dot in the middle is also fine. Come out, there we go. Oh, that's probably a bit too much. Yeah, definitely a bit too much. Oh well, we'll see how it goes. I think that's too much, but according to the manual, that's not quite enough. So we'll see. Remove the cover. Now we should probably give that a bit of a clean, make sure it's okay. No, that's actually been perfectly clean. That's fine to put straight on. So we'll do that now. Go. Push them down. Looks like that's on well enough. I'm assuming we use these spring screws. It doesn't actually say what you use, it just tells you that it's tightened. Have a quick look. Yeah, okay, so we'll use these. Put them on, they have a little spring on them. Okay, and we do the opposite side, always do the opposite side. It's important, otherwise if you end up doing one side first, you'll start to lever it, and then you'll never get it down the other end. Okay, last one. Okay, I'll tighten them up slightly with a little ratchety wrench. And you don't want to force the hell out of them. I mean, they're only small little nuts and screws. So tight is good, over tight is bad. Okay, I'll show you what it looks like. This is quite heavy indeed, so you can see now that those screws are on. with a tension spring, both sides there. See that? Back of the motherboard, it's quite nice. You can see it's got that typical nice Gigabyte black coating in case you ever spill a liquid on it. It doesn't actually destroy your motherboard straight away, at least. It's actually quite strong and robust. You spill a little bit of liquid and it won't damage it. So it's good for water cooling. We have a water cooling video if you guys want to check that out. It's on our website, which is likeapro.net.au. Download it, watch it, whatever. Okay, so now that that's done, the tricky hard part's pretty much done. From here, we mount this into the case. We add the RAM. Some people like to add the RAM now, and then add the power supply, turn it on, check it. I'm pretty confident. I've never had a problem with one of these boards before, CPU or anything, so I'm just going to go ahead, bang this straight into the case. I'm then going to add the RAM, add the NVE, or this little guy. Probably take it out and have a quick look at it while we're here. And I put my, can't find it. Okay, so we'll just undo this M.2. We'll have a quick look at it so you know what they are if you've never seen one before. There you go. Very small. The Samsung driver is actually incredibly fast, so it'll be interesting to see how well it boots. We'll do some stress tests on it later. Here it is. Very small indeed. So we'll chuck that in shortly. I might even do it now even. And it needs to go into this slot here. So that should be a little bit of fun. Probably should have put it in first. Yep, should definitely have put it in first. I need a smaller screwdriver. There's a bit of a tip then. Put the hard drive in first because it's a bit of a pain in the butt to try and get underneath the heatsink. Let's even see if we can put this in. Oh yes, goes in. As you can see, it's gone in on that nice little 45-degree angle. And then it gets pushed down and locked in with the screw that just came out of it. And this is going to be a pain in the butt to put back in now, but we'll see how we go. There we go, not too bad. I'll see if we can get a little bit more tension on that. There we go. Okay, so it wasn't so bad. You can now see that the drive's in. Lift that up. Wow, that is getting heavy. So you can see that's plugged in, sits slightly off the board so heat can get around it, though a bit of, so air can keep it a little bit cool. Okay, now the board's already starting to bend. This is quite heavy. When we put the 1080 Ti on it, it's going to be quite weighty, so this is going to have to be bolted to the case properly and quite well. It might even bend a little bit, but it's going to be done. Otherwise it'll just end up getting damaged over time. Okay, so now we'll do a bit of cleanup and put it in the case. Okay, so we've now got the case out. This is the Antec P8. It's a great case. We've used it once or twice before. It's got a beautiful, nice bit of glass on it. Hopefully that's not reflecting too much. Nice little 4 little thumb screws that can be easily removed. Just try and put that down without putting every thumbprint possible on it. And so we can see here the case. I'll see if I can move it up. It's actually quite weighty as well. You can see inside a little bit. Pretty sort of generic. It does have a very nice little cable hider down the bottom there for the power supply. All the cables should be able to feed into the back. On top it does have some nice little SATA holders for those drives. And yeah, nice fans. It's actually got 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. And so yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll start installing the new heatsink. Sorry, not the new heatsink, the new motherboard heatsink and CPU. The heatsink is massive though, that's for sure. Okay. Just make sure that there's no other bits and pieces left. Probably won't need that, but it's very cool. The old SLI. There's the rear faceplate. Very nice. It's like temperature sensors, a whole bunch of USB and SATA cables, and looks like the motherboard switch. Yep. Little header. Makes it easier, so we'll just put them down, ready to go. And we'll install. Always remember, back plate first, always, otherwise you end up putting the board in, screw it all down like everyone's done. Everyone always does it, someone does it, I've done it before, we've all done it before. There it is there, nice and shiny. So put this in first. Usually a little bit tricky, but not too bad, I don't think. Okay, just pushed in. A quick look at that. See how it fits? It's actually quite nice, isn't it? It's like a dark silver colour. Very impressive. Again, very impressive with Gigabyte. Okay, so we can already see that this case has raised points for the motherboard. It looks like possibly not all of them though are. We may have to put some extras in. What I like to do is I like to put the motherboard at the same rough angle so I can see and make sure all the points will line up, because some motherboards have slightly different sizes and you can never be too sure. So line it up, make sure that what you have is going to actually sit correctly, and I believe it is. Should be fine. Not too sure about this guy, and I think we're missing one here. So I might drop one of those in now. Okay, I've flipped over the case, taken off rear, and we can now see that there's more room for hard drives at the bottom here. You can adjust where this actually sits by loosening off the rear. We're going to need this box, if I can get that out, seems to be spot welded in. Oh nice, they've actually got hard drives on it, hard drive holes on it. So we'll put that back. That actually looks decent, like decent cabling for a change, that's good. So we'll flip this over for now. I'll see if I can find the right screw. Undo this. Okay, so what do we have in this box? Manuals, looks like some cable ties, looks like just some little felt ties. A nice little instruction booklet on how to do things that you probably already know how to do. And nothing too crazy. And a bunch of screws of what we are after. Okay, so the ones that we are after will be this guy. Not sure if you can see that properly. Little hex shaped looking guy. It'll just simply get put down into the chassis like that. Hopefully, I think I've got the right screw for it. You can tighten them up. Nope, too small. Okay, back to it. So, we should be able to tighten this up. That one's too big. Probably this guy then. Just like that. And that should be the last screw that needs to go on the board. Or on the case at least. Okay, so from here we put it in. So I like to grab from the top of the heatsink like this, if you can see that, because everything is held down tight. You're not bending anything, nothing's strained, it's just being held up by the socket like it should be, and of course, you know, the heatsink is fine. So we'll just lower this in and on. Pretty simple. The next part is to make sure that everything is lined up, all the screw holes are lined up, which they seem to do, which is a bonus. And then we just need to screw them all in. We have a bunch of those here, so we'll start with that now. Okay, I like to start with a center screw normally, because then you can sort of push and pull and make sure it actually sits in properly. If you start with a corner, yeah, it's not so easy. So the type of screws for this motherboard are the smaller screws. Normally it's the larger, but they are this type. So we'll start putting a few more of those in. more to go. I just have to move the case around, I think. Okay, and a couple to go. Remember, it's not a race. Do it right the first time, and you won't have to go back and undo everything, redo all the screws again. Okay, so quick overall check, all of those are in. The board is quite secure, it's not moving too much, looks pretty good. Okay, from here I'll work out whether I'm going to put the RAM in next, or whether I'm going to put the power supply in, or whether I'll leave it there. I'm not sure, we'll see. Okay, so while we're here, we should probably put on the G connector. Dun dun dun. Kind of a odd thing, but seems to be the new way of things are going. It's been around for a while. Basically just so you don't have to put every single screw down first. You can lock them in first. Speaker, power, LED, hard drive, of course. Put them all in, then click it down all as one. Yeah, not a bad idea, I think. Saves fiddling later, that's for sure. Okay, so we'll need to pull all the cables through up here. Attach what we need to, then tuck them away. That includes the USB 3. That includes the. We'll have to attach the fans. We'll have to install the video card as well. And then once all that's installed, we then run all the power and make sure we'll try to make it look all neat in the process. So yes, okay. Well, I think from here, I don't think there's that much more that you will need to see. I was a little bit worried there for a while that I wouldn't be able to close the actual case because of the heatsink, and it looks like there's about 3 or 4 mils from the top of this to the top of this. So that's about as tight as you probably want to get. Let's have a look at the back. From here, all of these will be undone, of course, fed through, just like the previous video, which you can probably go and watch, all done there. All of these will need to go through, the USB 3, audio, and of course all the other headers for hard drive and so on. These tiny ones will get fed onto that little G connector, like these little guys will click into here, click, 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 and then that header just clicks down all as one, and you know it's on right. So we'll leave it there for now, and yeah, if you want to see how all that wiring is done and all that, you can go to the other video on how to build a PC, and you can watch that. So I'll pause it for now. I will show you when I put in the 1080 Ti, because that is a huge card, and then that'll be it, I think. If you have any comments, just remember to write them down the bottom, or hit like, subscribe, whatever. I don't really care, but it's always nice to hear what you have to say, whether we did something right or wrong, or we broke it, or whatever. It's always fine. Excellent. Not a bad case, actually. I do like the glass front. It's quite nice. I think they did a good job. the RAM. This is Ripjaw's V, DDR4 RAM. Now we didn't go RGB, which everyone's going to go, oh no RGB. Of course, there's enough in this case, it'll be fine. You'll see it from the moon as it is. So here's the memory that we've got, 2 of these. When popping out the RAM, just remember, bend the plastic, not the chip. It's rather important. Okay, so these will be placed in the 2nd, 4th, and then 1st and 3rd. I believe that is the correct order. I'm sure someone will tell me if it's not, or probably the system will itself, I would imagine. No plastics on these. That's better. If you had only a 6-core CPU, I believe you can only use the right-hand side only when installing memory. I believe that's the case. Oh, let's get that in right. Why is it not clicking in right? There we go. This one's probably going to be the toughest one to put in, of course. There we go. Just remember the lugs have all clicked in correctly. You'll know because they'll be sticking out, they won't sit flush. I believe that's the correct memory setup. I may be wrong, but I will check later, or I'm sure when it posts it'll tell me that I've done something wrong, but I believe that to be correct. Now, just undo some of these fans. Okay, for later. Okay, so the next step would probably be to put the video card in, although I think that probably isn't a good idea. I'll show you what it looks like at least. As you may have seen in the unboxing video of what this card is, it's just ridiculous, but it's going to be perfect for this type of build. this was the card. You can see it takes up 2 and possibly a 3rd slot. It's quite a hefty card indeed. So to do that, we need to make sure that we've removed from the rear here all these faceplates from the rear. Interesting nice little lockdown. So I think I might remove that. Okay, usually don't use the first one, that's in case it's I think it's a flip. So we'll be removing these 2. They are in well. Come on. When removing these, make sure you don't hit or scrape the motherboard with these ends as they spin around. You can do some hideous damage. I just metal fatigue them off, which is left, right until they just break. And they're just soft metal. So from here, this should sit in perfectly now. We'll just remove the cover. Let's see how it sits. And it's in. I'll screw that down shortly, but you can see that that is quite the card. Takes up a lot of room in the case, sits well past the motherboard. If this was a standard case that had hard drive bays in here, you'd probably be hitting the hard drive bay. So if you are going to get one of these monsters, make sure your case fits, or otherwise you're going to run into all sorts of problems. At least have a modular bay. Or something similar. This one here is great for water cooling. There's just heaps of room inside, and all the other hard drives go around the outside of it, so it's a great case. That's why we chose it. So I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, so we'll screw it down so it doesn't go anywhere. Of course, always the second one that hardly ever fits, but we'll see if we can get it in. There we go. Done. Okay, so from here, our next step is just the easy part of just the wiring loom part to the motherboard, power supply, run those cables in, hook up the hard drive, power it up. That's simple. And yeah, so I think we'll definitely hold it there. The rest of it's just fiddly bits that I'm sure you've either all done before, or if not, you can have a look at our previous video, and it'll show you exactly how to do all those fiddly parts, or whether you want to do water cooling or change your heatsink or whatever you need to do. It's at our site, which is leicapro.net.au. I think we'll hold it there. Alright, thanks guys. As before, like, comments, that sort of stuff. Tell us what you think. Is it too much? Is there too many cores? Not enough cores? Is it going to beat the AMD? Ooh, probably. Who knows? Okay. Alright, see you guys. Have a good one.